Oh man, you won't believe this story. It's one of those things that sounds like it came straight out of a movie, but swear to God, it happened right here in this little town of Willow Creek, tucked away in the rolling hills of Iowa, where folks mostly mind their own business until something shakes everything up. Picture this, a massive storm rolling in from the west, the kind that turns the sky black as coal and whips the trees like they're nothing. Sirens blaring, but the emergency alert system, our so-called lifeline, goes dead silent, leaving everyone scrambling in the dark, hearts pounding, knowing floodwaters are rising fast, and half the town could be underwater in minutes. And there I was, just a regular guy watching it all unfold from my porch. But the real hero? This quiet woman named Sarah Jenkins, who'd been living on the edge of town for months, fixing fences and mowing lawns like she was invisible. Turns out, she was the one who saved us all, but with scars that told a story nobody saw coming. See, Sarah showed up in Willow Creek about 6 months back, renting this rundown cabin on Old Mill Road, the kind of place folks rent when they're trying to disappear. Nothing fancy, just creaky floors and a leaky roof. But she kept to herself, nodding hello if you passed her at the hardware store, hands always greasy from tinkering with generators or patching up storm drains. People whispered, "You know how small towns are." Some said she was running from a bad divorce. Others figured she was one of those off-the-grid types avoiding taxes or whatever, but nobody really cared enough to ask, especially with the big fight brewing over the land deal. Yeah, that's where the real tension started bubbling. The Hawthorne Development Company, these slick suits from the city, wanted to buy up half the valley for some massive wind farm project, promising jobs and green energy. But really, it was about shoving folks off their family plots for profit. And our town council, led by this guy Tom Harlan, was all in, pockets lined with kickbacks, manipulating the HOA rules to pressure holdouts into selling cheap. Tom had this way about him, charming at barbecues, but ruthless behind closed doors, driven by old grudges from when his family lost land in the '80s recession. So now he saw this as payback, power grab wrapped in progress. Sarah's cabin sat right on a key parcel, but she never budged, just kept her head down, which pissed Tom off more than he'd admit. Jealousy mixed with suspicion, like she was a threat to his little empire. Anyway, that night the storm hit like a freight train, winds howling, rain pounding the roofs like gunfire, and the river swelling over its banks, threatening to wipe out the low-lying neighborhoods where most of the blue-collar families lived, kids and all. The council's fancy new alert system, the one Tom had pushed through with Hawthorne's money, supposed to integrate with weather satellites and send texts, evacuate routes. The works crashed hard, screens flickering blank in the emergency ops center at the firehouse, folks yelling over each other. What the hell happened? Fix it. But nothing. Zip. And we all knew why deep down. Corners cut on the install to save bucks for the developers, shoddy wiring that couldn't handle a surge, and Tom probably skimmed off the top. Panic spread like wildfire, people piling into cars, slipping on mud, some just frozen in their homes, praying. In the middle of it, Sarah pushes through the crowd at the firehouse. This unassuming woman in a soaked flannel shirt, no fanfare, just determination in her eyes, like she'd seen worse. A volunteer tries to wave her off. "Ma'am, this ain't your place," but she ignores him, slides up to the main console, fingers flying over keys like she'd built the damn thing herself, bypassing locks that even the tech guys couldn't crack. And that's when it got real. Lightning flashes, her shirt rips at the seam from the struggle, and under those emergency lights, we see 'em. Scars crisscrossing her back like a roadmap from hell, deep cuts, burn marks, the kind that scream survival, not accident. Whispers ripple through the room, "What in God's name?" And suddenly nobody's looking at her like the quiet neighbor anymore. It's all mixed with fear, realizing she's carrying weight we couldn't imagine. She punches in some code nobody's heard of, overrides the blackout, and boom, the sirens kick back on, alerts blasting to phones, floodgates creaking open manually to divert the worst of the water. The river surges but misses the heart of town by inches. Houses spared, families safe, and as the rain eases, folks are clapping, hugging. But Sarah? She just steps back, wipes her hands, like it was no big deal. But then the radio crackles. Hawthorne's security team, these ex-military goons they'd hired to protect the site, demanding to talk to Phoenix, her old code name from God knows where. And the room goes dead quiet. Who was she, really? And why were these corporate sharks gunning for her like she held the key to their downfall? You gotta understand, Sarah wasn't always this ghost in Willow Creek. She had a life before, one that shattered her and rebuilt her tougher than nails. Back in her days as a Border Patrol agent down in Texas, she led a covert team busting cartel operations, rescuing folks from human trafficking rings, the gritty stuff that doesn't make the news unless it goes wrong. Operation Dust Storm. They called it storming a compound near the Rio Grande to free hostages held in a hidden meth lab, her squad of tough-as-hell operatives pushing through under cover of night. She was the leader, Phoenix, rising from ashes. Her team trusted her with their lives. But the op turned sour back up, delayed by bureaucratic red tape. Probably some payoffs from the cartel to dirty officials in the chaos. Sarah gets her people out first, stays behind to cover, bullets whizzing, friends dropping around her. When the smoke clears, she's captured alive by this sadistic cartel boss, Raul Vargas, a guy with a grudge against American agents after losing his brother in a raid years back. Personal vendetta. You see, not just business. He wanted to break her spirit. Make an example. 11 months in a dirt floor hellhole south of the border, waterboarded, starved, knife dragged across her skin slow enough to etch every betrayal into her bones. Cigarette burns on her palms as reminders to stay silent. But Sarah? She didn't crack. Not a name, not a route. Nothing held on through the pain. Thinking of her fallen team, their faces fueling her fire. Finally, a joint op pulls her out, battered but breathing, only for the agency to bury her file. Declared MA. No heroes welcome. Just whispers she was compromised. Easier to erase a broken agent than explain the mess-ups higher up the chain. So she vanishes, lands in Willow Creek under a new name, fixing odds and insta-blend in. But those scars? They weren't just skin deep, they were ghosts haunting her nights. Doubts creeping in, wondering if silence was armor or a cage. And Tom Harlan? He'd sniffed something off about her from day one. Maybe dug into records through his developer connections. Saw her as a loose end who could expose how the land deal was rigged. HOA fines piled on holdouts. Fake environmental reports, all to force sales. Jealous too, in that petty way, caused Sarah's quiet strength made his bluster look weak. Fast forward to the morning after the storm town's buzzing. Folks slapping each other on the back. But Sarah's back at her cabin, wrench in hand, tightening bolts on a backup Jenny like nothing happened. Though I caught her pausing, staring at the horizon, that weight pressing down. Enter Mike Lawson, this grizzled ex-cop on the council who'd been watching her, knew the signs of a survivor, spotted how she handled that console with muscle memory from ops gone bad. Scars he recognized from his own undercover days against gangs. He doesn't say much, but their eyes meet one day in the diner, a nod that says, "I see you." And Sarah feels a crack in her wall. Maybe not everyone's out to bury her. But the peace doesn't last. Council meeting that afternoon, maps spread out showing Hawthorne's expanded plans, red lines swallowing Sarah's land and half the valley, Tom presiding like a king, voice smooth as oil. This is progress, folks' jobs, future for our kids. But Mike leans in, mutters under his breath about the rigged bids, and Sarah, lurking in the back, spots the pattern. Hawthorne's not just buying, they're sabotaging, maybe even tampered with the alert system to scare folks into selling cheap during the chaos. Then the hammer drops. Radio in the meeting hall buzzes. Hawthorne's head of security, a cold voice echoing, "We need to speak with Phoenix." Now, the room freezes, heads turning to Sarah, her past crashing in like the flood she just stopped. Tom's face twists smug, almost relieved, like he'd tipped them off to flush her out, his grudge boiling over cause she wouldn't bend. "Explain yourself," he snaps, stepping close, eyes narrowing. Sarah straightens, no more hiding, that fire igniting. "You sold us out for a paycheck. Tom rigged the system to fail so your buddies could swoop in. But I know setups when I see him." The air thickens, folks gasping, Mike nodding grimly, and Tom laughs, bitter. "You're a ghost. Lady Agency washed their hands of you. Step aside, or we'll drag you out." But Sarah doesn't flinch, her voice steady. "I've faced worse than you in a cell, try me." High noon hits when another squall line barrels and winds, picking up, river rising again. But this time Hawthorne's goons block evacuation routes, claiming private property on the access roads they'd quietly bought, trapping folks in low ground. Chaos erupts, people yelling. Cars stuck, and Sarah steps up. No hesitation, rallying a handful of neighbors. Follow me, we'll cut through the old trails. She hotwires a bulldozer from the construction site's gills from her ops days plows a path, leading the convoy out as waters lap at tires, Mike covering her flank with his old service pistol against the goons trying to stop him. But inside, betrayal stings. Turns out Jerry, the town clerk, Tom's right hand, slips up with a printed order from higher-ups. Neutralize the asset, some shadowy directive to silence Sarah before she exposes the corruption tying Hawthorne to cartel money laundering through the land deals. Mike grabs it, growls. They're playing both sides. Your past just made you the perfect scapegoat. Sarah's world spins, agency betrayal echoing. But she pushes through, voice cracking just once. Not today, not while I've got fight left. The showdown crests at the riverbank. Hawthorne's lead goon, echoing Raoul's ghost, faces her across the mud. Phoenix, we finish this. Hand over what you know about the old routes, or this town drowns. Sarah stares him down, rain streaming. You think scars break me? They built me. She feints left, grabs a loose cable from the dozer, swings it like a whip crack, sending him sprawling. Mike tackling the rest as sirens wail in the distance, real feds finally rolling in on anonymous tips. The goons scatter, Tom exposed mid-meeting with bribes in hand, cuffed and sputtering. This ain't over nothing. But Sarah, soaked and scarred, just smiles faintly. It's over for you. As the sun breaks through, town licking its wounds, Sarah stands on her porch, wind drying her clothes, knowing she can't hide anymore. Phoenix rising, justice half won, but questions lingering. Was the agency involved deeper, protecting dirty deals? Folks rebuild, but whispers remain. Did Tom act alone, or is the rot bigger? Man, it changed everything here in Willow Creek, made us question who we trust, what progress really costs. Hey, if this hit home, drop a comment below. What would you do if your quiet neighbor turned out to be the hero saving your ass from the suits? Is it right to bury the past, or does dragging it out bring real justice? Share your take. Love hearing your stories. Keeps the conversation going. Hit like, subscribe if you haven't, and let's chat about those community battles that shape us all.